I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm just gonna sound like a broken record, but how can I not? If you're not watching Trigun Stampede, you're truly missing out on one of the stronger shows of this anime season. 9 episodes in, and I still find myself saying each episode I'm more intrigued, I'm more just immersed into this world. And with an episode that more or less gets summed down to pick a side. Do you want to side with humanity, knowing what we as humans can do, good and bad alike? Or do you side with these plants, these intelligent, powerful, alive creatures that are being used as a fuel source? And yes, some people are trying to go about it better, like growing plants and things like that, so that the other plants, our general flowers, the flora, stuff like that, it can be like relieving some of the burden. But when you have the bug character come in, and I mean, immediately I'm thinking, okay, let's just shoot this character in the head, been nothing but trouble. But then you see like this bug globe where it shows like, oh, the fish and the birds, and this is what the earth used to look like. And then we think about like, oh wait, yeah, humans aren't that good, are we? And then we consider what we've seen as a world currently in this environment, the sandy desert location and everything, and the fact of how shocked they were to discover what a flower was. I mean, it's hard not to say that maybe, yeah, the plants are worth saving a little more than humans more often than not, but man, I hope there's a way that both sides can exist, but right now, who the hell knows? Now, I do have a full live reaction to episode 9 available on my Patreon, so if you want to see my full uncut thoughts and shock, because there was definitely some shocking moments, whether black hole arm or the numerous other moments I was like, okay, I didn't see that one coming. Head on over to my Patreon and consider supporting, because yeah, this show, I love watching it. I seriously do. It may not be the most popped off show, the most talked about show of the season, but I mean, I always look forward to watching it. And I mean, I was saying in last week's video, I expected Knives to be the reason he doesn't have an arm, right? When they were building into like the black hole suck arm of death, I was like, okay, I guess I was wrong. Maybe his arm just absolutely obliterates itself. The fact that it was almost like this defense mechanism that in the moment when Knives was about to kill, it's honestly like his adoptive mother figure in a lot of ways if we really look at it, right? The fact that Knives had no option other than to cut off the arm, I guess I was right, but the fact that the idea of his arm turning into basically a black hole that was sucking in everything around, it probably would have absorbed everything in that room had Knives not done that. I thought it was an absolutely incredible twist. And, when I see things like that, and we look at what Vosh as a character is, right? We're seeing that he can interact with the plants, but we're like, okay, like clearly there's more than meets the eye. We have someone like Knives who obviously can also feel what the plants are feeling and interact with them as seen by what we saw in this episode. But he also has like the blades that can come out Wolverine style. So I'm interested to see if that whole black hole thing is going to come back again, because right now he has that fake arm that obviously our boy Brad does end up fixing because he ruins it a little bit, as he's mentioned how it's not the first time. And the fact that I'm curious if this black hole will be some form of energy that can be harnessed, or if that's going to be something that could potentially be the death of him or others. There's a lot of uncertainty with that, but in terms of a shock value, I mean, you could have thrown that at the end of, this season as we wait for most likely the season 2, season 3 that's going to get made of this show, right? But man, that was a really good shock and twist. I really have to say, they went from making Knives this like evil scumbag looking character who just enjoys killing people for fun into someone who you kind of understand why they went that direction. Now, I'm not saying we should all say characters like Knives should just be rooted for, but when you do look at the fact that when you see how humans are using plants, and we can look at plants objectively and say that is a living creature, that is pain, yes, they are the reason humans get to live, but there is a moral dilemma there of like, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line of how much you can hurt something to keep yourself sustained, right? And that's why the whole like flora thing is like right now the most justifiable outcome. Like if you can find a way to use that to lessen the burden and the load for the other plants and other ships, and maybe that's the direction. But if only one has to survive, man, I mean, you can make an argument for either one of them, and I can understand the outcome. And I think that's what I really like about this show right now, is that rather than making things black and white, you have Knives, this like murderous, blade-filled bastard, and you have Vosh, the guy who doesn't want to pull the trigger. Okay, usually in a show like that, you would say, oh, you follow the guy who doesn't want to pull the trigger because He's not out here destroying cities just for the fun of it because he's a psychopath. But Trigun Stampede is all about showing that, you know, what made someone into that and the hate and the rage that is there, you do understand where they're coming from. And it's not just simply because you want to hurt people, but more so you understand why they have such a deep hated feeling against humanity, given how humanity does use the plants and everything. And it's very interesting for sure. I think they had a lot of emotion. They definitely wore their heart on their sleeves this episode, and people were feeling things, whether it's Nye's Wolverine to the face, and I was like, okay, that was way more brutal than I was expecting. Vosh basically sucking in an entire planet, it felt like, had his arm not been eliminated, to the end of the episode with our bug character just kind of being like, which one would be more beneficial? Would it, because, you know, I always love it when stories write it like, hey, I've been here longer than you, so don't try to tell me that this is your planet. So how about I ask you something? Who's more beneficial, the humans or the plants? Pick one. And it's like, how do you not be like, man, probably the plants are the ones you should save, but as a human, you really want to root for the humans, but man, do we suck sometimes. Like, it's kind of how it feels to watch right now. There's bound to be a lot of twists and turns we won't see coming, but in terms of like, every time I say it, like, I just find myself more immersed in this world. I'm still saying that. I like the show the more I watch, and this episode flew by in the blink of an eye. Like, I'm not saying it felt like a 5-minute episode, but I was shocked by the time the credits started playing because I thought for sure we at least had another 5 minutes or so. But it was a good cliffhanger for sure. Though it did get a few chuckles out of me for sure. There's this moment with our boy Roberto when they're in like the Flora area, right? He's like lighting a cigarette and she's like, you can't smoke here. My boy almost like sucked that cigarette right down his throat when he got shocked. He's like, oh man, I can't do that. Or I think the funniest moment, it's a very blink and you miss it moment, but initially when Vosh and Wolfwood, they're riding on like their beasts or whatever, and initially the shot, you kind of see it in the distance and you see him kind of fumbling with his cross. But then there's this very quick moment where he's like, kind of has like the cross on his shoulder, but he's struggling to keep it there. Vosh is dead serious. He has a mission. He's a man with a mission. And Wolfwood's just being Wolfwood, just trying to carry his ridiculous cross on his shoulder, and it's just not working out. So I like how there is those moments that do kind of relieve the tension in ways that maybe a lot of people won't notice, but they do get a chuckle and a kick out of me personally. I think this is a great show. That's exactly how I would rate this show. It is great. It just knows what it's doing right now. Fun twists and turns, the action is exhilarating, and the emotion is very, very high. And as much as I'd love to say I know where it's going, I mean, I thought he was going to lose an arm. Sure, that's a pretty easy to predict plotline. He's looking at a prosthetic arm. He has his arm when he's meeting his brother. But no, man, like a black hole coming out of that, wasn't seeing that coming whatsoever. And it will be very, very interesting to see where they go, because clearly there's brotherly love there on both sides, but they have two very different opinions on where the future of their lives should go. And it'll be interesting to see where they take it. Let me know what you're thinking though down below. Drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Also ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload on the channel. And of course, as I mentioned, I do have that full live reaction available on my Patreon if you're interested. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.